episode. We're going to do Wonka. I should bring you on for a minute so you can tell everybody what you thought of Wonka.
Did you like it?
Hi.
Hey,
Ethan,
did you like it?
Ethan, did you like it? He's asking. I liked what you told me. You said right when the movie finished, I said, "What did you think about it?" He said, "It was perfect."
Oh,
Perfect.
well, there you go.
Yeah.
Gold stars all around. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is James, joined as ever by my good friend Steve. And this episode, we are talking Wonka.
Hey, but before we talk Wonka, if you haven't already subscribed, it'd be a great favor to us if you did. We are almost 2,000 subscribers. You could be the one to get us over that hill. But James, let's talk Roald Dahl's Wonka.
Okay, well, that's an interesting way of introducing it right there, because obviously, Roald Dahl created the character, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, The Great Glass Elevator, and what have you. And now we get one of these films that is the latest in a string of kind of origin stories for beloved characters, told many, many years later. Often, as we've seen with a lot of sort of Disney stuff in particular, this isn't Disney, but with a lot of Disney stuff in particular, they take the villains and they try and exonerate them with a
Rehabilitate them, and
yeah, with a more sort of empathetic backstory like Cruella or Oz or Maleficent or countless others.
Captain Hook,
Yeah. It seems to be happening quite a lot. It seems to be quite and so I was slightly trepidatious coming into this. This is Paul King, who directed Paddington and Paddington 2, so that's good stuff right there. And this essentially tells the story of a young Willy Wonka as he arrives off a boat looking to make his name as a chocolatier, only to be met by adversity and reluctance at every turn, not least by a cabal of three very profitable but very duplicitous chocolatiers who kind of run the city essentially.
Yeah.
So Steve, what did you think?
James, pure imagination. This film, I love this film. I was somebody who was going in with some trepidation. I am a huge fan of the Gene Wilder incarnation, the 1971 film. It is one of my all-time favorite films, something that has molded and shaped me for years. And the abomination that was Tim Burton's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory just set me up for, am I going to be further disappointed? And I gotta admit, man, Timothee Chalamet, for me, knocked it out of the park. He, like Gene Wilder, embodied the character of Willy Wonka. The cast, from Olivia Colman to James Carter to just even Matt Lucas as one of the evil cartel. There are so many elements of this film, and we'll spend a few minutes, I'm sure. I want to say this was pure imagination.
Yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised by this. I thought it could be very twee. It could feel very cynical and manipulative and like a cash grab. And it could feel like a sort of just the latest cookie cutter franchise tentpole spat out by a tired and desperate studio, and it wasn't at all. It felt that they'd really taken the effort to create a story that was justified, that brought something new to the character, but he remained the recognizable character that he would become. I thought, Timothée Chalamet was fantastic in the role. I think he's fast becoming one of the most versatile performers of his generation. I mean, we've seen how good he is. Call Me by Your Name, Dune, the
Bones and All.
Bones and All. I almost said The Lovely Bones, but yeah, Bones and All. All very, very strong performances, but very, very different kinds of characters. And here he adds sort of song and dance and just a sort of magical naivete to all of that. In a way that just worked, I felt beautifully, quite frankly.
I think, some of the critiques you mentioned of some past, rehabilitation or retelling of origin stories. I think one of the things that causes a lot of fan backlash when these tend to happen is there's not a feeling that the directors and story writers or script writers are honoring beloved characters. Like, you haven't earned the right to make the changes you've made. You're not honoring what went on before. I think this is what we had happen with The Witcher when Henry Cavill left. The feeling is these people that are taking over the show are not honoring the character. So you haven't earned the right to take it into new directions that we, the fans, don't think you should go. What Paul King did in this is he did open up and explore new avenues that Wonka, we got further insights into who this guy is, but we give him that license, I felt, because he so honored the Gene Wilder incarnation. We feel at the end of this film that Timothée Chalamet, even though he doesn't look anything like Gene Wilder, is this character and will morph into the Willy Wonka we know from the film in 1971.
Yeah, and I think more importantly, it kind of captures that sort of Roald Dahl sensibility.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was a very sort of specific kind of author. You know, for children, but he wasn't afraid to show kind of like sort of the sharp edges of the world to the children. You know, he wasn't all sort of magic and candy. He was, you know, and I like the fact that this film is populated by so many kind of sort of monstrous characters. I think Olivia Colman, in fact, her double act with Tom Davis, isn't it, who plays her kind of subordinate turned love interest in a great sort of story twist. I thought they were a fantastic sort of double act.
As a big Les Mis fan, Les Miserables, I was getting all kinds of Thénardier vibes. When he goes in, I had the whole song, Master of the House, welcome, monsieur, sit yourself down. And, you know, the whole front of we are this people that want to help you, and they're the most despicable human beings that there are. Another thing that hit all the right buttons is that the absurdity level. I just love the measure of the absurd in it. It brought back a lot of childhood memories of great films in the same theme as this film. Like I'm thinking of Ian Fleming's Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, you know, with the, there's just an absurdity of the inventor doing crazy things. Like this is unmoored from our reality, but it's okay because I want to live in this world. I want to live in the world where the chocolatier can open up his little workshop on the go, and he's got everything he needs to make chocolate, but the most fantastical chocolates, the absurdity levels, the colors, the steampunk, it all blends into a wonderful concoction of just childhood delight. You come out of this film, even though I'm 57 years old, I'm 9 years old again.
I thought there was a touch, and I'm just kind of realizing this now. There was a touch of Eddie Redmayne's character from Fantastic Beasts to Willy Wonka. You know, not the good stuff.
Right.
You know, the fact that he is sort of slightly disjointed from the rest of the society, that he does have this sort of magical case that he brings around with him. He has been to all the far-flung corners of the earth and encountered rare and magical creatures that are beyond our comprehension. But rather than bringing them back and putting them in a sort of a zoo within a suitcase, he's like milking them and just bottling their juices, if you like, in a very humane way that he can then use to concoct incredibly sort of delicious and magical chocolate. So so there's undeniably sort of a little bit of Harry Potter or that universe that's been sort of just like woven into the fabric. But I think that that's just because of history. You know, it's just where that sits, and there was definitely an element of Roald Dahl in Harry Potter. You know, definitely in the school and in the teachers and just in some of the sort of ghastly characters there. So I think it's all just sort of a very natural evolution of all of these stories. But
a lot of great dentures, a lot of great dentures in this film.
Oh yes, some brilliantly bad teeth. But I just loved the wholesome nature of it. You know, that despite the fact that that some of the characters are pretty nasty and what have you, you know, that you have this sort of triumvirate of chocolatiers played by, was it Matt Lucas, Matthew Bainton, and Patterson Joseph, who kind of rule the roost, and they have Keegan-Michael Key's chief of police in their pocket. A movie like this obviously almost is contractually obliged to have Rowan Atkinson in it at some point. And you know, does he play anything other than priests these days? The
Father, Son, and Holy Goat. I wanted him to say that line just because Hugh Grant's in it as well. You know, just
well, of course,
and we have to discuss Mr. Grant. What do you think of his take as the Oompa Loompa connection to Wonka?
I thought he was a lot of fun. I thought he was a lot of fun. I mean, I think Paul King can probably be credited as responsible for the Hugh Grant Renaissance. You know, I think wasn't it his part in Paddington 2 that really
Yeah.
sort of kick-started this next phase of his career, where he's now playing sort of slightly less than likable characters.
Savory, yes.
Savory, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And he's just leaning into that hard, and every time he does it, it's lots of fun. You know, the Guy Ritchie films that he's done and what have you.
yeah,
And here, yeah, he's the Oompa Loompa, you know, and
yeah,
I think the deadpan way that he does it, even while he's dancing and all the rest of it, I thought works really well. You actually
yeah.
get some backstory as to how their relationship manifested and what the deal is between them, and how it's
Mhm.
actually slightly animosistic to begin
Yeah,
with. That yeah, it all sort of falls into place quite more than acceptably, I think
yeah,
it's
yeah.
fair to say.
Well, I took my 12-year-old son, and at the end, when he's singing Pure Imagination and
Mm,
Noodles finds her mother again, and there's just, you mentioned it earlier, that sense of wonder. There's something about that song, and even the beginning notes, the bell, like the little tinkling of the bell, ding, ding,
mm.
ding, it's almost like when you hear that as a child, the magic's coming now. This is when the magic begins. And I'm not talking magic of spell casting and witches. It's the magic of creating worlds, creating better worlds, creating places where orphans are able to reunite with their mothers, where Wonka, who has had this longing for his mother, discovers the secret of the chocolate is not in the recipe, but in the friends you share it with. I mean, it's the kind of stuff that sounds like it would be over the top syrupy, and yet Paul King does it in a way that I think hits the heartstrings of humanity. We want to live in that world. Most humans watching this think, no matter where we're at on our life's journey, I want to live where these folk are living. And so I looked over it. I'm already getting misty-eyed when they're singing Pure Imagination. I'm like, I'm looking over, and Ethan's just got tears coming down. And when it finally finished, I said, "So Ethan, what did you think of Wonka?" He goes, "It was perfect."
Brilliant.
There could be no more ringing endorsement than a 12-year-old saying that was perfect.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to get away with being that wholesome and
Mhm.
that it's sentimental, and do so in a way that doesn't feel grating today,
Yeah.
particularly coming from an Englishman. You know, Paul King is British. We've got such a sort of reluctance to be that earnest about
Mhm.
anything.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a real achievement. I mean, it's very brave of them to do it, but I think it's a real achievement that they managed to balance it just
Mhm.
so that it comes across. You know, it's brimming with all of that, you know, raw, very unadulterated emotion, but and yet doesn't tip into sort of syrupy, saccharine kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, kind of cynicism. And I really have to sort of appreciate it. It's interesting
Yeah.
that the first song that we bring up is the Pure Imagination, the holdover
Right.
from the original movie, because I think it's it's slightly telling that during the movie it's a musical. There are lots of
Yeah.
songs, and they're from Neil Hannon of the Divine Comedy. He wrote all the songs. And I think as the film goes on, they all feel very much of a piece and in place
Mhm.
with the tone of the movie, and you know they carry the story forward when necessary, and you know they're quite enjoyable. But you walk away, and I've forgotten them all already.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the only song I can remember is Pure Imagination from 1971.
Mhm.
And I think that's a shame. You know, I think within the context of the movie, they all work really, really well. And like I said, they all carry the story forward. But I can't remember any of them now.
Right, right. Well, that could be said of the stage play that Sam Mendes did, of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, that ran on the West End about 10 years ago. I saw that in 2014. In fact, I got a backstage. I actually knew somebody who knew somebody, and I got to the girl who played Mike TV's mom was a friend of a friend. So I got a tour backstage. I got to meet Douglas Hodge, who played Willy Wonka. But one of the criticisms of that play was that musical was at the very end. They have a very touching moment where they fly off in the elevator and he sings Pure Imagination. It's the only thing in the musical that they bring from the
Hmm.
Gene Wilder film. Nobody remembers any of the songs from that soundtrack except Pure Imagination. So whether that's a testimony to how good pure imagination is,
Oh, I think
or
absolutely it is. Yeah.
yeah. Of course, the 1971 film also had the Candyman, so it has
Right.
that one as well. Surprised they didn't bring that in at some point, because there was a lot of little shout outs in this film to the Gene Wilder film, and I didn't see them make that connection at any point.
No, I reckon that, they were onto a winner. They got that one old song, bring it over. I mean, otherwise, it's almost like, why not bring all of them across?
I mean, like you said, the songs move the story along. At the beginning, the very first song about the 12 sovereigns, he's got the 12 sovereigns as he's slowly whittled down.
Yeah.
They immediately had me in this story just with that. It was done so creatively. And in that intro, we get a little spotlight into the what makes Wonka tick. Even though he's only got these 12 sovereigns, he gets kind of swindled out of a few. But even when he's being swindled, he'll still stop and give the homeless whatever they need. Right. Take whatever. He doesn't even just give them a sovereign. Holds out his hand, take whatever you need. And I think they leave him with one, and he has one sovereign to get him for one night or something at the lodge where he eventually gets swindled.
Sure, but then doesn't he have like a hole in his pocket?
That's right. And it drops through. He actually has zero.
He has none. Yeah, he goes in with no money, and that's why they make him sign this contract.
Yeah, that's right.
Ties him down. So how are we going to score this one? Some kind of chocolate. What were they called?
The hover. How many hover chalk?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Why not hover chalks?
So James, how many hover chalks are you going to give Wonka?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was delightful. I thought it was fun. I was very pleasantly surprised because I'd gone in fearing the worst, quite frankly. We've seen so many of these, but I thought it was sweet. I thought it was charming. I thought Timothee Chalamet was great, and overall, Paul King is a pretty trusted pair of hands these days, and he did not disappoint. I am going to give it 4 hover chalks out of 5.
I'm going to go even up from that. I think this is possibly my favorite film of the year so far. I'm not saying, I mean, obviously there's these Oppenheimer films that will make my top 10, which are wonderful films. But for me, the movie-going experience, when I have experiences in the cinema, that immediately shoots the film up in my...
Well, that's what it's all about.
So for me, this just hit everything. And, we didn't really chat too much about the supporting cast. Everybody who Timothée Chalamet is kind of surrounds himself with when he's cast down into the dungeon to do the laundry work. You got Jim Carter down there. Just that whole group of castaway, or throwaways that find redemption and find friendship and find a new meaning for life. Again, everything in this film just makes me want to be a better person and have lots of chocolate. I'm going to give it 5. This is for me. This Wonka so impressed me. It's a 5.
That's awesome. I cannot remember the last time you gave something 5 stars.
Yeah. Now you're a little more liberal with it than I am.
I like to throw it about. I do.
Yeah. You wield it like a scimitar. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Well, that's what James and I think about Wonka. Timothée Chalamet did a wonderful job, in our opinion, of bringing to life the beloved chocolatier. But what do you think? Obviously, I don't know if there's much controversy about this film, is there? I mean, other than I heard that some of the dwarf community is upset that they went with a normal size actor for Oompa Loompa, but since there was only one.
I mean, it's a minefield, of course, but I mean, you can argue that an Oompa Loompa is a fictional character.
Yeah.
And so, what does a real Oompa Loompa look like is the question.
You grant.
Well, I'm not too worried about that.
But that's what people are saying. What do you say? We'd love to hear your thoughts, James.
Yeah, absolutely. Do share your comments in the comment section below. Have any of the songs stuck with you? If so, feel free to quote them in the comments just to prove your point. But yes, how does this stand for you? How does this compare to the 71 version and even the Johnny Depp Tim Burton version? And is there an as yet untapped Roald Dahl property that you would like to see either revisited or brought to life for the first time? Let us know.
Hold your breath, make a wish, count to 3. See you next episode.
Bye-bye.
That's what Gene Wilder says.
Yeah, it's like it's yes, I know. Yeah.
You're wonderful to see. You ought to be in pictures. Oh, what a hit you would be.